drivers on that particular day. And against Porsche opposition, Jaguars certainly didn't disgrace themselves. The dark green cars were on the pace from the word go. The opposition, Lancia and Porsche. A not negligible opposition either, some of the best that the foreign factories could throw at Brands Hatch. The big difference, of course, with the Jaguars and everyone else was that they were running the V12 production-derived engine and no turbocharger. True, a new 48-valve head had been designed to fit on the existing block, but 24 valves were considered enough. The cars had superior performance to most in the class, and not only that, they had far better fuel consumption. In the early stages of the race, the Tom Walkinshaw entered and prepared cars ran well and strongly. By the end of 1985, there was no doubt about it. Jaguar had the best chassis in the business, and no one could doubt the determination of the team with some fine performances. They were finding reliability, and if Brands Hatch didn't work out the way that TWR and Jaguar had planned, it wasn't for want of trying by the drivers. They gave it everything they'd got. Perhaps the most difficult thing was seeing Tom Walkinshaw standing in the pit road. But the decision had been taken that Tom would mastermind the operation rather than take part in it as a driver or direct team management. Throughout 1985, the Jaguar was competitive. By the end of the season, there were some rewards for hard work, and everyone was talking about 1986 as being Jaguar's year. It jolly nearly was too, because right up to the line, the World Endurance Championship was very much in doubt. It virtually was the last race before the title was clinched once again for Britain's Derek Bell. And Jaguar lost its grasp by very little. Yes, they went to Le Mans, but with the cars that were normally prepared to run 1,000 kilometers rather than 24 hours. There was little time in a busy season to prepare specific cars for the famous 24-hour race or to modify the existing machinery. Things like fed-in rear wheels, definitely worthwhile in a sprint race, were possibly the cause of a tyre failure in one car at Le Mans, while the position of the fire extinguisher over the top of the starter motor materially affected the finishing of the other car. The pit work, however, was once again up to Walkinshaw's standards. Their perfection. He's not interested in taking part in any motor race that he's not in with a very good chance of winning. And so, after a very good season in 85, an even better one in 86, together with Silk Cut, they decided what they were going to do for 1987. The car was so obviously right. Detail improvements, however, and the production of 2 versions of it were to secure the sort of record that Jaguar can be justifiably proud of in years to come, with the season only half over. The new car for sprint races has only competed in 4 events so far, and it's won every one of them. The last one was, of course, at Silverstone, the home of British motor racing, with the AutoGlass 1,000 kilometers. This was an opportunity, however, not just to see the sprint cars running, but also the Le Mans car as well. Practice had proved once again that turbocharged cars can and do go very quickly. But that's not always the secret of winning a race. And the Jaguars are right on the pace with them. The sprint cars are quite a bit different to the Le Mans car, and we'll come back to that later. Car number 4, the Eddie Cheever Raul Boesel car. The Italian-American, at 29 years old, with a vast amount of Formula One experience, had joined Jaguar in 1986 and had proved to take to the big sports car like a duck to water. He'd asked Tom Walkinshaw what his intentions with the team were. Tom had told him to win the championship, and Eddie went away thinking he was out of his mind. The season was to prove him almost wrong in 86, and 1987, well, who knows? Joining the Cheever Boesel car Jan Lammers, the Dutchman who drove for the team in 1985, has alongside him the very experienced ex-Grand Prix driver John Watson, while the third car in the race is handled by Martin Brundle and John Nielsen. The start, and reading almost like a boy's own storybook, it's Mercedes in the shape of Mike Thackwell heading the Jaguars as they come up now towards Beckett's on the first lap. Thackwell, ex-Jaguar driver, followed by Hans Stuck. First of the Jaguars, Chiva, holding on to third place as the rest of the field files through. There's number 21, James Weaver, out onto the hanger straight and round again towards Woodcote at the end of lap 1. And it's Mercedes with into second place now. Jaguar number 4. Jaguar number 4, Eddie Cheever at the wheel now, up towards second place and chasing off after the Mercedes. Followed by his teammate there. The two Jaguars now running in second and third places and closing in on the Mercedes. Arrow's Grand Prix driver, Eddie Cheever, looking at the tail of Mike Thackwell's car there with the silk-cut Jaguar looking at the outside now as they come into Beckett's. He'll look then to take a tight line and come out tight on the inside there as they go around Chapel Curve, and he's alongside as they go down the hanger straight and into the lead. So Jaguar lead at Silverstone. And accelerating away now with a flat beat of the turbocharged Mercedes behind. His bigger engine, but turbocharged, don't forget, as well. And now putting distance between himself and the opposition. This the shorter-tailed car, the sprint car. And there is the number 6 car. That's Martin Brundle with the LeMans configuration car, making its debut here at Silverstone and being driven at very high revs just to see what happens. And that car moving up rapidly. And so we move on now to 1/3 distance with Jaguars, silk-cut TWR Jaguars in first, second and third places. That's the second place car in the hands of Jan Lammers as into the pits for a scheduled stop comes the leading car number 4. Already, driver number 1 out, driver number 2 in. And Cheever, of course, swapping over with Raul Bussell, who spent most of his last 2 years racing in the States, taking a welcome drink there with the car back into the race and still in the first 3. Porsche at Silverstone being beaten by Jaguar on Jaguar's home ground. As in the latter stages of the race, we see yet another pit stop for the Jaguar team, who have dominated the AutoGlass 1,000 kilometers here at Silverstone. This is the interesting car of the trio, the Martin Brundle, John Nielsen car, the one that is in the LeMans configuration that has been brought to Silverstone basically to find out how it will withstand very high RPM, so it's running with slightly different gear ratios, and also how the driveline will stand up to some very severe punishment. Accelerating away back into the race again, a race that is dominated, however, with a duel now developing in the final stages between the two Jaguars. In car number 4, Eddie Cheever fighting all the way, currently with the Jan Lammers, John Watson car. Already, the point has been proved by Martin Brundle in number 6, the LeMans configuration car, which has fallen back during the course of the race. But definitely this fight going on between the two Jaguars at the front. Despite extensive modification, neither of the works Porsche 962Cs of Stuckenbell, Mass and Rolleck are able to stay with the two Jaguars, who are now running in pretty close company, and really who's going to win this race is still wide open. Jaguar number 4 into the new Woodcote at Silverstone, and one of those incidents that sometimes happens when you get a differential in speed between cars, one of the C2 cars there, and the Porsche have collided, bringing out the pace car, which is of course another Jaguar, this time an XJS, who pulls off now with the circuit more or less clear into the pit road. And with very few laps to go, the gloves are off. Tom Walkinshaw has said, sort it out among yourselves, and the two Jaguars race on towards victory, racing each other as hard as they've raced everybody else. But finally it's Raul Bussell who takes Jaguar number 4 past the checkered flag, and there is the champagne. Following this magnificent victory in the AutoGlass 1,000 kilometers at Silverstone, we were invited by Silk Cut Jaguar to visit the TWR establishment at Kidlington near Oxford to watch the Le Mans cars in preparation. So, with a look at the sprint car, we asked team manager Roger Silman where the changes have been made for Le Mans.
The differences between them, basically the requirement to run at Le Mans is quite different. We're looking for a top speed close to 230 mile an hour. That wouldn't be something that's possible with the sprint car. It has too much downforce, it has too much drag. So the basic differences are a car that's lighter, easier to drive because of the less downforce, less drag, and hence runs easier to the fuel requirement.
What special modifications have been made, if any, to make the cars more reliable to run the 24 hours? Have the engines been detuned at all?
No, the engine's just as the engine we use in the rest of the championship races. I don't think there's a requirement to detune the car in any way. It's more a matter of running easily through the 24 hours with the car having the same potential as the sprint car.
And how many team personnel will be going to Le Mans with you?
There's something like 75 people that are closely related to the car that have active parts to play in the team. Inevitably, they bring sort of 10 or 15 people that we call extras that are with them that just add to the problems.
And how far do you go with spares on a trip like Le Mans? I mean, where do you stop? Have you got complete spare cars, or?
No, we have no spare car, but each of the cars has its own set of parts, which is included in a lifing plan, so the cars start the race with as low mileage parts on as possible. In addition to that, we have some parts which are the most vulnerable in the case of accidents.
I see. And I believe you were in radio contact with the cars. Is this a constant contact, or is it for emergency purposes only?
It's emergency purposes only. Some of the drivers like to talk to us. Eddie Cheever talks virtually the entire race. Some drivers like Raoul Bazell you never hear a word from. It's something in the event of a problem. It allows the driver to warn us of a coming problem. And if in very unusual circumstances we're aware of something on the circuit that the driver isn't, then obviously we're able to give him that information.
Believe you had a couple of problems with engines at the Le Mans test days a few days ago. Have you got these ironed out now?
Yes, I'm very confident there was no serious problem there whatsoever. We had a problem with the third car, which isn't related to the mechanical reliability of the components, so we're feeling quite confident as far as that goes.
One of the major strengths of the silk-cut TWR Jaguar team is the engineering section of the company. In conditions that would not disgrace an operating theatre at a hospital, the engines for Le Mans are being prepared with meticulous care. In line with the age-old expression that cleanliness is next to godliness, the preparation department now is looking at assembling these engines in conditions where dust and dirt, however small the particle may be, can be eliminated from any fault that might occur. The fitting of the cylinder head and the engine test bay. Here, on the brake, the engine is run up to nearly 6,000 revs per minute. The normal V12 Jaguar engine, with a capacity of just over 5 litres, goes up to some 7 litres in its TWR racing form. The parentage of this unit goes back into the mid-60s, when a 5-litre V12 with 4 overhead camshafts was developed for Jaguar to return to Le Mans in the XJ13, which sadly was never raced. The transmission of the Le Mans Jaguar is in a straight line. That is to say that rather than it be at an angle to the engine, as in the case of the sprint cars, it's straightened out so that there's even less strain. The windscreen of the Le Mans cars is provided by Triplex. They cost approximately £500 each. Here we see the V12 unit mounted in the back of the Jaguar monocoque. Notice how the venturi, which give the downforce effects, have been blocked off. And if a car goes, you also have to stop it. A shot here of the brakes. With the immense gravitational forces of a modern racing car, let alone the high speeds, tyres and wheels are important. Jaguar will run as always on Dunlop tyres. Each wheel is meticulously examined, crack tested, and balanced prior to the race. One of the most vulnerable parts of a modern racing car has to be the tail section or the front section. Here are the spare tail sections already packaged up for transfer to Le Mans. Aerodynamics being such an exact science, you cannot afford to have a problem with a damaged rear section. But this is the view that most people hopefully will be seeing of the Jaguars. The bodywork is superbly finished, as befits a motor car which Tom Walkinshaw builds, with immense attention to detail. Since a large part of the motor race takes place at night, special attention has been paid to the driver's requirements in regard to lighting. There's also the provision for indicating if the car is pulling off into the pits or wishes to signal someone of their intention to overtake. Notice too the faired-in mirrors and the fact that the windscreen sections of each car have been colour-coded so that they may be easily identified in adverse weather conditions and heavy traffic. The cockpit of the Jaguar may look Spartan to you and I, but a great deal of thought has gone into this, in providing not just comfort for the driver, but ease of access to all the auxiliary controls. There is a computer readout for the condition of the tyres and the fuel consumption. Just a tachometer to tell the driver what the revs are. The all-important on-off switch, the starter button, and the rear-front brake balance control. The gear lever has also received rather special attention. Great care has been taken to see that as far as possible the driver's hand isn't going to get damaged during the course of the 24 hours. The flush-fitting doors are also important from an aerodynamic standpoint. The last thing in the world you want is a door like this flying open on the Mulsanne Straight. Tom Walkinshaw told me that preparation for the 1987 Le Mans 24-hour race started over a year ago. In fact, at the test days for the 1986 race. So, can the TWR silk-cut Jaguars win at Le Mans?
I really don't see why not, yes, and I'm looking forward to it very much.
We move now to Mallory Park, to the first